Hello, and welcome to Resilience Radio bonus episodes. I'm your host, as usual, Irvin Eisenberg. I am owner of Resilience Occupational Therapy and creator of this show. I am diligently working on Season 2 of this show, and Season 1 has just wrapped up. I wanted to, while you wait, give you some material to listen to. So what we have is bonus questions from previous episodes. During the body of my interviews, I don't like to challenge my guests too much on what they're saying because I don't want to distract from the general premise of what they're talking about. However, I like to spend a little time after the interview to keep pushing on some subjects. So in this case, Lisa Masa mentioned drinking 8 cups of water a day, and I decided to follow up on that because that seems like bit of an urban legend that's sort of a specific thing that we need to be able to do. And I really enjoyed Lisa's response to that and some of the additional conversations we had around dieting and fad diets and just some general health stuff as well. So we've got a nice size bonus episode for you today. Enjoy. The 8 cups of water a day is something that I didn't want to challenge you on it on the show itself, but I was curious. I remember reading a massage article about massage therapists love pushing water as well, and sort of that the research on the 8 cups of water, from my understanding, doesn't seem to be come from anywhere. It seems to be one of those like 10,000 steps kind of random numbers, and
right.
That doesn't mean we shouldn't try to take 10,000 steps, but I was just curious what your thoughts, a little bit more unpacking that were.
Totally. It is somewhat random. And I think that, when we're looking at replacing lost fluids and making sure we're staying hydrated, it's a good place to start, right? Which is why I was saying, 2 quarts of water. It's different based on your activity level, based on your age. But it's really just a way of saying to folks, like, we need to drink water. We're made of water, and we need to replace that water. And it's not just enough just to get water from our food. And so in terms of, so many people who suffer from constipation just start drinking more water. And lo and behold, your digestion evens out, right? So I think that sort of number or amount is somewhat random. And I think it's just kind of a way of starting to get that concept into the forefront of people's minds. I also really am a proponent of drinking water between meals so as not to dilute the gastric juices, and really recommend to folks that they don't drink water with a meal at all. And in fact, try not to drink water 15 minutes prior to or after a meal to keep digestion strong. So
I know that's always a tricky one because I feel like some people don't slow down enough, myself included a lot of the time, to remember to drink between meals. If it's like, oh, I got to do 3 meals a day and I need to make sure I'm not drinking water during the meal. Or I'm thinking, I do work at a nursing home as well, doing OT at a nursing home, and there's so many, I don't blame any individuals. It's often staffing issues. Just making sure people actually are getting snacks, or that they were awake when their meal came around, or and such. So I'm like, the time that people are having the most fluids in that particular case is during their meal, even though it would certainly be ideal for them to be getting that. And a lot of these people are the people where if I can get them to eat ice cream, often I'm thinking and it's usually garbage ice cream. I'm like, yes, they got calories into them.
Totally.
So it's
I know.
So it's very different than the general population that you've been speaking of, but it's my mindset when I'm there is so, when it comes to nutrition, and I don't pretend to be their nutritionist, but is very different. I'm like,
I absolutely agree.
I had someone who I was just like, every time I see her, I would walk by and drop potato chips in front of her, and she'd go, "Oh, I shouldn't eat those," and I go, "Yes, you should." And then she'd finish them, and she wouldn't remember, and I would remove the bag, and I'd say, "Oh, would you like some potato chips?" And she'd go, oh, that'd be nice, but I shouldn't have too many. I go, well, let's get you some.
That's awesome.
So it'd be like, because she was losing weight and it was becoming a problem. And
Absolutely. And I think that especially in the aging population, it's so important, as you say, to get calories into folks. And above and beyond that, people have less of a thirst impulse as they age. And that can be really challenging too. And often using something like potato chips, which is a salty food, gets folks feeling thirsty and then they want to drink, and that's beneficial. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's why nutrition is such a complex conversation, because so many different populations with so many different needs according to their life stage.
I get frustrated whenever I hear nutrition dogma.
Oh,
Anyone who's got
yeah.
a hard and fast truth about nutrition, I'm sort of stop paying attention pretty quickly, or if I don't think they can take me poking holes in their arguments, then then I just sort of start to ignore them because um
It's true.
yeah the and something else I was curious about is just how you there's so much. I mean, we didn't discuss sort of psychology around eating in terms of eating disorders. I think that the obesity epidemic and anorexia and malnutrition are two sides of the same coin. They're
Agreed.
Americans are malnourished. I calling it an obesity epidemic always annoys me. Actually, it just demonizes fat and makes people then
Yes.
like more afraid of eating whole fat yogurt and like other bizarre
Oh,
50s mindset American nutrition. Um,
I know.
sad. Um, but people have so much judgment around their food, and there's so
I
much
know.
shame. How do you unpack that with people and not be how be make them feel judged and like, well, you really shouldn't be eating your candy bar that you like to eat every day because
Hmm.
it's not good for you, and then they sort of give up and eat three candy bars kind of thing. Like,
Right.
I know that the diet that watching sometimes watching diet related things actually make people like go and binge eat more because
Yeah. That's right. And food is so personal and so emotional, right? And within the DSM, the huge book of psychiatric conditions, all of the disordered eating conditions are nervous system conditions, right? Which is actually true. There's a reason they call it anorexia nervosa, right?
mhm,
Um, and with that, I find that having people source their own intelligence around food is often the most effective way for them to then want to change their behaviors. So a lot of the times I'm asking questions, and I'm saying, well, how does it feel to be eating your candy bar? And often people are saying, well, I love it while I'm eating it, but 5 minutes later I'm crashing and I feel horrible. And I'm saying, well, uh-huh. Well, just meeting back with curiosity and saying, why do you think that is? And then often people will say, well, because I don't think it's very good for me, but I'm addicted to it, right? And so then we're getting to the real core of the information. And that's where I'm sort of able to say, well, you're probably right. And that's not your fault, because the candy bar is literally engineered to be addictive, right? Scientists have literally tested how many pounds of pressure feel most pleasing and get the most dopamine release when a chip cracks and crunches in your mouth. And when I explain that to people, they often realize it's as though their own yoke of judgment and shame has been lifted, because it truly isn't their fault, right?
mhm.
Especially when folks don't know what the alternatives are. And so then I start to say, well, what if you could make your own candy bars? It'd be cheaper, they'd taste better, and you wouldn't crash afterwards. And then people are saying, yay, that's exciting. Tell me how to make my own candy bars, right? And so then we create some kind of a Snickers bar recipe, where we have like some chopped almonds and some 100% cocoa powder and some maple syrup. And, we're making something that tastes really delicious, and satisfies the same kind of dopamine receptor,
Mm.
and isn't, causing horrible repercussions in their system. So I'm often leading with questions, helping people kind of come to their own conclusions, and then supporting them with tools in a direction that feels doable, manageable to them, right? I'm not really ever going to tell somebody to not do something, because if I do, they're going to do it anyway. I'm a parent. I know how children behave. I know how we can get into this kind of stubborn, childish mindset around food. I know what food brings out in people. So I think that when people source their own ideas around their health, they create a much more um, effective and sustainable long term plan. And I find that things, sort of change. It's like, okay, let's make our own candy bar. And they start doing that and they love the candy bar. And then um, as their diet continues to shift sort of more towards a whole foods diet, as they're feeling more energy, they'll say things to me like, oh my God, I forgot to eat my candy bar today. Like, oh, geez, you forgot to eat your candy bar. How does that feel? And they're like, actually, it feels great. I feel like I didn't need it. I'm like, okay, great. Well, what did you eat instead? And they'll tell me what they ate, and I'll be like, well, maybe that's your new candy bar. Was your roasted vegetables and chicken. And so, that kind of, I think, helps people to rewire their own brain chemistry around what delicious or comfort food means, right?
Mhm.
And at the end of a period of working together, people have switched from comfort food that's like, wine and chips and cheese to comfort food that's like, ooh, roasted sweet potatoes with cinnamon and coconut oil, right? So it's just kind of a process, I find, of witnessing and reflecting and um yeah, kind of holding people in their own moments of awareness and breakthrough around food. Because we all have it in us. We all know what's going to help us feel most vibrant and energized and well. That's, part of that body listening. But it often takes a lot of layers of breaking that down um, to get to a place of being able to source our own best choices for nourishment.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this bonus material. If so, share it with a friend and subscribe via the podcatcher of your choice. While you're there, you can always leave a 5-star review, and that really does help out quite a bit. You've been listening to Resilience Radio bonus material. Take care.